So, self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. This quote is from Napoleon Hill. Here's an example. Your friend texts you to ask for help with the kids again. Most days you say yes, but you really can't help today. So you text back, I can't today. I hope you find someone. Smiley face. She doesn't respond. You check in on her the next day and she isn't replying to your texts or calls all week, but she is posting on social media. Ugh, what do? You ask a few friends for advice. You're feeling a lot of feelings, and each friend gives you a different suggestion. One of them says, forgive and forget. Another one says, ignore her back. You have every right to be upset. Another one says, you should stop helping her so often. Ah, how do you know which advice is best for you? Perhaps you have a different struggle, a health struggle, financial stress, or a family issue. How do we ever know which action to take? Which action is best to solve our current situation? That's what we're breaking down in today's show. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Weekly Fellowship, the space that brings faith-filled women together to inspire and empower each other. I'm your host, Reagan Clement. I'm a life coach and the proud founder of the Rising Tide Fellowship. Today, our gathering is fueled by the belief that one of the best ways to support our God-given goals is to spend time among high-quality people, encouraging you, setting high standards, and making your struggles and your infinite growth feel normal. Brought to you by the Rising Tide Fellowship, we're more than just a community. We're a gathering of growth-minded women of faith engaging in group discussions, Bible studies, book clubs, and online courses. Our coaching collective, comprised of specialists catering to women in different seasons of life, supports and uplifts each member, guiding them toward peace, virtue, and fulfillment. Weekly Fellowship is not just a podcast or a YouTube video, it's a space where we come together every Thursday at 12 p.m. Central for a live, interactive, podcast-style conversation. This is where we share insights for your life in an engaging format, and here's the best part. At the 30-minute mark, we invite you to bring your ideas, perspectives, and questions to the conversation. Your voice matters, and we truly value the connection that we are building here. Our first season, How We Became Disciplined Women, is a journey into transformation. In 10 episodes, we'll share the details of what finally transformed us from stressed out list makers into the peaceful women who can actually finally follow through. So whether you're joining us during your commute, your workout, or a quiet moment of reflection, thank you for being here. Subscribe now to Weekly Fellowship and become part of this incredible community. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So welcome to a rising tide of incredible women. So I've got some really fun guests here today. Joining us is a wholeness coach, Ryan Carr. She works with busy, stuck, and overwhelmed Midwest moms who desire a growth community. She creates a soft space for them to land where they can receive the training to design the life they were promised. Ryan, you also serve women in grief coaching too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I am so honored to work with you, Reagan, and be here. And on the Rising Tide, I serve as the grief coach. And that was really born out of my personal experience. We lost our first baby 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago, to stillbirth. So 10 days before his due date, we went in, there was no heartbeat. It was completely unexpected, and it literally collapsed our world. And so I did a lot in the grief world and did a lot of healing and a lot of good things, went to counseling, support groups, started a retreat for parents with my husband in ministry. And then about 3 years ago, I found wholeness coaching, which is kind of what you described I do. And I thought, they have got to be married together, wholeness coaching and grief coaching. And so that's really where the dream started. And so now I get to be the grief coach, and I really get to walk with women through that dark valley of grief and companion them along the way, help them pick up and reassemble the broken pieces, all in the context of wholeness, because no one did that for me. There was a lot of, this is your new normal. This is just how it is. No one asked, what do you want? And how can you be whole again after this bomb has gone off in your life? So that's what I get to do. And I love Rising Tide because it allows me to do that.
Well, we love you too, and we're so thankful to have you here. Personally, I'm thankful to have you here, but I know everyone else feels the same. And we also have another amazing coach, Carla Dickey. Carla, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. My name is Carla Dickey, and I'm a wife and a mom of 7 little ones. We just had our last in November, and I have an interior design degree, and I'm also a wholeness coach. And I really love walking with women out of perfection and self-criticism into having just beautiful spaces, even amongst lots of little ones or a busy life. That's really where I live.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I know we're going to talk later with you another time about environment and really how to create a peaceful, beautiful environment when it's feels like it's a little chaotic. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you also. Today's topic is on self-discipline, beginning with the mastery of our thoughts. And so I'm glad that we had that introduction to remind us all why we're here. We are all women who have come from stressful, chaotic lives to understanding and believing. Like I can honestly look at you and not feel like a fraud when I say I am a woman of discipline. I wasn't 3 years ago, but I am now. And in episode one, we know that that means I'm a woman in training. I haven't arrived, but I'm a woman in training. And I think that Ryan and Carla feel the same way. We're women in training, but we also have a lot of skills and tools that we've learned over the years. And one of the main ones is thoughts. Self-discipline begins with mastery of our thoughts. And now today, this is such a big topic. I mean, that's a quote from Napoleon Hill. There are so many books written on this. We had a hard time even choosing which part to really talk about today. So we're just going to focus on the tip of the iceberg and really create awareness around how powerful our thoughts are and how we can use this new awareness to change the outcomes we see in our lives. So we all have things we're working on right now, probably things that we've tried so many different strategies to achieve, whether that's your health, your prayer life, your organization, maybe your cleanliness of your home, your marriage, your friendships, whatever it is. We all have something that we're working on and that we've tried so many things and we're just not sure what the next step is. And so today we're going to talk about how our thoughts are really affecting those outcomes and the results in each area of life. And the one thing I wanted to share before we start the conversation is just the overarching formula. And this is something that I didn't know. So I want to make sure everybody knows that thoughts create emotions. They evoke emotions in us. And then our emotions really start creating behaviors and actions. So my emotions are creating my behaviors and my actions, and then my actions create my outcomes. The things that I'm doing over and over and over create the outcomes in my life. So my thoughts are creating emotions, emotions are creating actions, and actions are creating outcomes. And so this is the conversation we're going to start with, but I just want us to all see that thoughts are tied to outcomes. So let's start with Ryan. Ryan, have you struggled with your mindset over the years with your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. I remember about 3 years ago, before I actually encountered Carla and her coaching, I had just had my fourth baby. I was trying to lose 30 pounds, and I knew where I wanted to be. So, like, think of if we even have this formula, A plus B equals C, right? We all learned that in algebra. I had the C. I knew I wanted to be a peaceful mom, a fit mom, a joyful wife, a gentle woman. And I just thought if I just set more goals, I could become that person. So it's like I had the A part of the formula and I would set a lot of goals. So let's look at health. So I would be like, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to get up and run every day. And I would get up and run it every day. And then I didn't see any progress or any change, mostly because at the time I had no mind awareness. But now looking back, the thought was really, this isn't working, because it wasn't working. And so why would I get up and give my all to something that isn't working every day? And this is all going on in my subconscious, because I did not even know, like you said, that formula, no awareness that that was even going on. So then I'd say, well, I just need to be stricter with myself. I need to set a different goal. So maybe I'll do the elliptical and running. And then inevitably, I would quit or things would get busy or life. And then I'd say, I just need a different goal. Now walking's the new thing. Walking is the new thing. Maybe adding walking with some weights. That'll definitely help me lose 30 pounds. And so I was like, just goal, goal, goal. And then I wasn't seeing the outcome that I wanted with fitness or losing the weight. And then I was just getting more confused. And it was just like this terrible cycle of, okay, set more goals. But then the other part of it was I would go to the moms groups I was a part of, which really for me as a stay-at-home mom, that was my continuing education. I didn't really have a plethora of a workforce or anything like that. And the prevailing theme that I heard there, Reagan, was give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. You just had your fourth baby, give yourself grace. So I would try that some days and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to work out. I'm going to eat the cake. I'm not going to do the laundry. I'm not going to do the dishes. I deserve this. Like it's a lot. 4 kids is a lot. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give myself grace. And I remember sitting there on my couch, seeing my dishes out of the corner of my eye stacked up, just crying because that didn't work either. Like it just was still felt awful. So the goal setting felt awful and the giving myself grace felt awful. And it was just like this hamster wheel that I just couldn't get off of. I don't know, Carla, have you experienced anything similar with your mindset struggle?
Yeah, I think for me it was really perfection, and similar to you, I I didn't recognize my thoughts, but I would look around my house and just think it's just not good enough. Like that's not how I want it to look, or maybe my children aren't behaving how I want them to behave. I really wanted perfection, but I didn't recognize my thoughts were really sabotaging me because I didn't really have the skills to have an ordered home with so many little people undoing them, and I didn't recognize how my thoughts really were overwhelming me in just my home and in the spaces that I loved, but I just I didn't have the skills, especially in the mind work. I was just constantly criticizing myself in my home, and honestly, probably my children in my head too. I didn't really think about that, but I was seeing from a lens of perfection, and then nothing is good enough. And recognizing perfection is not a virtue, and really helped me, and seeing progress over perfection and seeing a little glimpse of progress is so motivating when it comes to all the tasks that we have to do as a mom. So yes, I definitely can relate to how my thoughts were not serving my purpose.
I love how you said, while all of the little ones are undoing them, because that's just so real. Like it almost feels like you're working, 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 and they're working against you a little bit. And that can be a thought. Even right there, that can be a thought. Just recognizing, wow, I feel like my kids are working against me. That probably is not going to lead to an emotional or action or an outcome that I want, right? So I want to ask you guys how you pivoted from there, but I think we should pause just for a second and look at, I think it's so important to see the destruction that some thoughts can cause. So, in your case, Ryan, you said I was just flirting between like not flirting, like bouncing between goal, 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 and give myself grace. And the prevailing thought underneath was like, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work. So when you think that kind of a thought, how did it make you feel? What kind of actions did that make you take?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, because the other thought that I'm remembering now was just like you're not working hard enough or you're not good enough. Like it's something wrong with you. Like the goal is good and the process is good, but somehow you can't figure this out. And so you're just not good. But really what it led me to was comparison. I was just always looking at the other women that I encountered, even at the grocery store, at mom's group, at the play dates, at the library, and being like, they are so much skinnier. And I remember when they would tell me how many kids they had, I always did that internal check. Okay, am I bigger or littler than them? I mean, it's terrible to say it now, but that was where my brain went. And I think because it was like, well, why? It just made it seem like everyone else could do it and I couldn't do it. And so it was just always the self-criticism, you're not enough, you can't figure it out, this isn't going to work anyway. And then that leads to comparison. And then I'm trying to be like, no, I want to be a joyful wife. Well, I'm not showing up as a joyful wife when all day long I've been in my thoughts comparing and competing with the other women in my circles.
Mm. That's so powerful. And I didn't introduce this at the beginning, but I just want to pause there and kind of show the two angles. Like let's say you see a skinny mom and she has 5 kids, not 4 kids. Oh, dang it. She's skinny and I'm struggling with mine. And now I have two paths. I can compare myself to her and say, like, I'm not as good as she is. Or I could look for a different thought. But either way, I have to start thinking about, what am I telling myself here? And they're going to take me on two different trajectories. And so I always look at the negative lie, that lie that says, Ryan, you're not as good as she is. You're not as skinny as she is. Obviously, you're a failure, you're a loser, like whatever it is in your head. That when I hear that, and if I follow that out with the emotions and the actions and the outcomes, that's always what I think of when we hear scripture says to like really prune off the unfruitful branches. Like that whole line of thought needs to be pruned because
Mhm.
it is not producing fruit for you, right? Like, did it produce fruit for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. What comes to mind with scripture is when Jesus at one point with, I think it's the woman who's like washing his feet. Anyway, they're all telling her like she could have done something different. And he says, leave her alone. And I think that's so much. My thoughts tend to be very accusatory. And so I just sometimes that's a simple, just leave her alone because that makes me sad to think back 3 years ago on that woman because I was trying so hard. I would have said I was disciplined, Reagan. I was getting up at 5 a.m. I was doing the bike thing. I was, and it just was so defeating. And I just feel bad for her now, this woman, because I didn't have the whole formula.
Hmm. I can resonate with that. And that accusatory tone, that's so obvious. You can, as we start building this skill of catching our thoughts, if we hear an accusatory tone, we can just kind of go, whoa, red flag. That's not God. I don't know who that is, but that's not God. Maybe I do know who that is. That's not God. What about you, Carla? Did you see some of your thoughts, like of the perfectionism kind of taking you toward a damaging direction?
Mhm. Yeah, when Ryan mentioned just not good enough, that is what, when I journaled later on, I recognized the thought that was underlying so much of things was I'm not good enough. And so it's like I have an interior design degree. I should have a beautiful home. It kind of these standards that I had placed on myself that were really much higher than I could really maintain. And just kind of expecting an Instagram look with, lots of little people. My oldest is 11. So we have a lot of little busy people and also add a husband into the mix who's working a lot. You have lots of mail and there's just a lot of things that play into your life. And all of a sudden you need new systems, you need new skills. And I didn't have them. And so I was trying to work with what I had been working with as a single gal and it just wasn't working. And the self-criticism was very relatable, Ryan, because I felt like whenever it wasn't how I wanted it, it was just, I'm not good enough. I'm not showing up well enough. And like you said to Reagan, it needed a lot of pruning and I just didn't have what I needed.
Yeah. Well, when I think about the times in my life, whenever that whisper comes in and I'm telling myself like, oh, you're just not good enough, it usually tends to rob from the little bit that I am doing well. So like for me right
Mhm.
now, I'm a homeschooling mom and I obviously work here from home. And those are two things that I'm like, ooh, these are awesome. Now, I'm still always working on my health and other things too, but like these are two strong things for me. And when I think I'm not good enough because I didn't get to the gym this morning or because I missed a workout, it actually tends to rob from the two things that I'm really darn good at, being a good mother and teacher to my kids and showing up here for my clients. I start to feel like maybe I'm not good enough in those either. And it's so destructive.
Yeah, and you can see where it comes from. I mean, what a genius plan, if he can get into our thoughts. Joan of Arc has this great line, and she says, all battles are first won or lost in the mind. And why didn't I know that? I'm just like, how did I was 37 years old before I learned anything about thought management. And man, my early days of parenting would have been a lot different had I had an idea of even that formula you posted.
Yeah, just the basics. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's go back to a little bit, Ryan. You said something so interesting about the back and forth. The I'm chasing my goals. I'm goal, and that's something that I see in myself. I did it yesterday. I was kind of being hard on myself, and I was like, "Here's your new strategy. Here's what you're going to do to fix it," you know. And then I was like, Reagan, you would not let your clients do this. You'd make them do the thought work, and then you'd come up with a strategy on the other side. So I totally relate to just choosing that goal and jumping on it wholehearted before doing the thought work. And then the other side of it, you said you were like, just give yourself grace, and then that almost gave you permission to do nothing.
Mhm.
So what helped you pivot from here? What helped you really pivot from those type of thinking to who you are now?
I got a coach. I got Carla as my coach. I met her 3 years ago, signed up for one of her programs, and life has never been the same since. Because, like I said, awareness is the first step. So you need to be aware of it. But then just having someone else, it's like a jungle in your mind, and having someone else to walk through that jungle with was so helpful. So she really taught me that it starts with the thoughts. And so I'm like, okay, and one of the big things was like, yes, I need to lose 30 pounds, but I also want to just love my body, right? Like that was like a real dream that I had. And so I remember saying, okay, the thought I'm gonna have is I am beautiful. And I just every day I would like get up and get dressed and I'd be like, I am beautiful. And I'd still be crying and nothing fit, and I couldn't find clothes to wear, and I just felt awful, and it was because Carla taught me, your brain doesn't always believe every thought. We have to really move and tweak the thoughts, and so she taught me about a ladder thought. So maybe that thought, I want to be beautiful or I am beautiful, that's where I wanna be, but I need a thought to get me there, and so she really worked with me, and we came up with, this new thought is, "I'm up for the challenge." And oh my gosh, it had so much punch in it because I was like, yeah, I'm up for this challenge. Let me find something that I feel beautiful in. Watch me. Yep, I'm up for the challenge. I might go running today. I might do the elliptical. I might not do anything. I might just like be peaceful, but I'm up for this challenge. I remember especially it covered all the areas. So not just like with fitness, it wasn't just working out, then it was food. And I remember even this like very particular day when I was going to a restaurant, and that had always been my downfall, right? Like I could probably eat pretty good at home, but like restaurants were like, just let it go, eat whatever you want. And I was like, I'm up for this challenge. I bet I can do it. I bet I can find something on that menu that sticks within my food plan that I've decided for myself. So really that, and then the weight just started coming off. Like it was amazing. It really was a tangible process, and Carly got to see it, so that was fun. But really just finding the right thought, I think, is so, so important because not every thought will give you the punch that you need.
Mm. Do you want to add anything to that, Carla? I think it's so cool that Coach Ryan has her coach here today, and I love the humility in that. I love that so much. But do you want to add anything to that story or something for yourself?
It was just such an honor to watch Ryan because she really was up for the challenge and she was extremely disciplined and willing to do hard things. So it was really beautiful to just watch how the thought work really does come first. And sometimes it's just hard to believe until you get to watch it unfold for someone else. I think it is so often easier to embrace when you see someone else just living it out. And it was just so fun to watch Ryan do all the hard work and see the results. It was just so fun. And I've seen it in my own life in little ways too, and in big ways. But it was really just such a joy to watch someone else just walk the hard steps to bring them to where they really desired to be.
Mm, thank you. So I think a lot of our listeners are probably going, okay, I get it. Thoughts are important, but like, how do I actually use this thing, thought management? Ryan, do you want to share a little bit about how to do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, and maybe Carla can add some too, because I think we both do it differently, actually. And so I tend to do voice loops. Like I will, well, I guess just back up a little bit. Every 3 months, like quarterly, seasonally, I sit down and I say, like, what are 3 words that I want to describe who I want to be? So, like last semester, I did wise, gentle, and focused. Like, that's the kind of woman I want to be. Okay, so I know that's where I want to get, right? I have the end result. But before I even fill in the actions that will help me do that, I have to go back to the thoughts. And so then I write down a bunch of thoughts to kind of build that woman up. So one of my thoughts for gentle was, I leave proof of my gentleness. And so I wire those in, I write them all down, and then I voice record myself and I listen to them definitely one time a day, if not more, like whatever I can get in. It's like ibuprofen. I tell people, the more you take, the more you're going to you experience it. And so I really like that because it just is something about hearing my own voice, say it over and over again. And then I do it for about 4 months. And so it tends to be a longer stretch of time, but it adds a punch. And then I kind of can fill in the actions to become that woman. Carla, do you want to talk about how you do it a little bit differently?
Sure. Yeah, I actually write it out. I just do it 10 times a day, and I do it for 60 days, and I have a little sheet, and I have all the different um, scripts, I guess you call them, just thoughts that you want to wire in, and the date that I completed them. So one that I just keep seeming to need to go back to is progress over perfection. Just different seasons, I see the perfection tendency slipping back in. And so then it's just for 60 days writing progress over perfection, progress over perfection. And I love how it fits so many different areas of my life, whether it's keeping my home orderly or homeschooling with my children, just knowing maybe we didn't get to all the books I wanted to today. Maybe I didn't show up exactly how I wanted, but it's progress over perfection. And my children will see me as a whole, not just for what they witnessed today. And I think seeing the scripts written out and just the different ways I've grown has helped, just seeing it written out and what days I completed it. Cause it's like, oh, that used to be a struggle. It's really not a struggle anymore. So just seeing the growth just through the different scripts. But I have done a voice loop in the past, and there is something about hearing your voice saying these latter thoughts that you really do want to believe. There is a great power in hearing your own voice. So I actually have a couple of things on my bathroom counter that I want to add to a voice loop. A couple are just like a litany of motherhood, a litany of trust that I want to hear myself saying, because I really want those thoughts in my mind rather than the thoughts that I often have. So I love Ryan's method, and I know it's effective. So
It's beautiful. I think what I'm hearing you both hit on is the wholeness schools formula: write, recite, repeat, retreat. So write those new scripts down, those thoughts that you want to be thinking about yourself. So if something that I did last year for, or I guess it was 2 years ago now. Wow. I did it for so long, maybe a year, and it was, I'm fit, feminine, graceful, and gentle. And at the time, I felt very masculine. I felt like I want to be more feminine. I'm almost 6'2" over here, y'all. So I know y'all, you can't tell on the
I
screen.
didn't know that.
So I always want to, that's been a childhood thing of feeling bigger than everybody else, feeling more masculine. I wanted to be more feminine. And it just became a part of who I was. And I'd go walking or go running or on the track and just say it: I'm fit, feminine, graceful, and gentle. And then for 6 months, I was getting in the sauna and a couple times a week, and I would retreat. So I would envision, what does it mean to be fit? And I would picture myself like each each part of my body, what I was wearing, how I was moving, how I was speaking, what I was doing. Fitness for me meant active. It meant when the kids said, "Do you want to do this, mommy?" I said, "Yes, like let's do it." Really retreating into my mind. So I just want to offer it to me. I did never realize this until this moment, but I think maybe it's our learning style. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
Ryan, you're
because I love the scripts because I can take them on the go, right? Like I'm very kinesthetic. So I'm like riding my bike, but I've got my earbuds in and I'm hearing those. But just with the retreating too, I tend to do that, but I tend to do it in time chunks throughout the day. So if I have those 3 words: wise, focus, gentle, okay, I'm going to go into my homeschooling time with my kids. I want to be gentle and focused, like those 2 things. Okay, now it's dinner time and my husband's coming over or coming home. And so I want to be wise and gentle. I don't know, like I pick whatever adjective and I just do a quick in my mind. What would it look like? What would it look like when he comes through the door? and it's like, well, I don't want the chaos. I don't want this, it looks like me greeting him, all the things. And so it's just like I'm giving my mind just a little bit of a runway and like the tracks, I'm laying the track to say, if things go off the tracks, I know how to get back on easier because I've already done it in my mind. I've already imagined what I will be like, what my ideal is.
Yep, that's exactly. And it's the auditory and the physical movement, and then putting it in each season of each part of your day. I just love that. That's an addition that I haven't done. Carla, do you have anything to add to that? And then we'll wrap up.
Diane has really led me to be better at imagination. She's really the one that said, like in your car, whenever you come up against kind of a tricky situation, imagine it first. And I had kind of forgotten about just utilizing that great skill. And so I just look forward to incorporating it in new ways because I feel like after you have a baby, there's a lot of moving pieces and you can have a lot of excuses, but it's also really a beautiful time to witness the beauty of a large family or, more children to other people. So it's like, oh man, how can I incorporate imagination so that I'm showing up better for my people, but also as a better witness of what large family life can look like. So imagination, I'm looking forward to incorporating that through her witness.
Beautiful. I think the final point, kind of to sum up everything we've talked about here and add like a little piece that maybe we should have added sooner is this is, self-discipline starts with the mastery of our thoughts. We're talking about our thoughts, but when we're learning how to break down thought management, and we're talking about 4 ways we can really rewire our thoughts: writing them, reciting them, repeating them, or that voice loop, and then retreating into your mind and imagining. And our minds, the secret to this is that our mind doesn't know if it really happened or if this is all in our heads. So every time we hear it, we picture it, we imagine it, our brain thinks it's just as real as our breakfast we ate this morning. There is no difference to it. So it sees there's evidence that that's true every time we imagine it. And it's just it becomes so real. So that's a really integral part that maybe our listeners need to know is it's so helpful to rewire those neural pathways using imagination and writing, reciting, repeating, retreating, because our mind will start to believe us. We get to actually convince it, which is so cool.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Reagan, too, I remember a few months ago, you and I had just started working together, and after one of our meetings, and we've only ever met on Zoom, I've never met in person, and I sent you a text, and I was like, you're just so gentle. It's just amazing. And you're like, I have worked so hard on that, girl. So it really works. Like I could feel that through the screen, though. Like that's amazing. That's amazing. So I just want to say it's working. We're doing a great job, and we're all in progress for sure.
Glory to God, and thank you. Woohoo, I love that. Okay, well, let's transition now. This is going to be the end of our recorded portion for our podcast and for YouTube. And now let's kind of transition into our private part where it's just you guys who are here live. If you want to turn on your mics, turn on your cameras, and just connect with us, you're welcome to share an insight that you have, something you want to add. And you're welcome to ask questions. If you feel more comfortable throwing your questions in the chat, go ahead and do that. Let's just kind of open up the conversation here with what has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation today so far?
So, this is something, the whole idea of just, saying that you are already kind of thing to try and convince yourself that you are, that that's what you're working towards. It seems, it seems a little far-fetched. I want to believe it, but it still feels a little far-fetched for me. But the reason I want to believe it is because, when I was a school teacher, we had a teacher come to us
Amanda,
like the
you're cutting
whole
out a little
entire
bit.
school district.
Amanda,
Okay.
you're cutting out a little bit. Oh, did we lose her?
Yeah, she had a good question though. The first part.
Yeah. Yeah, do one of you guys want to address that question? She said, I want to believe that I am something. Oh, there she is. I want to believe I am whatever it is. I am gentle, I am graceful, I am fit, I'm feminine, but it seems far-fetched.
Mm.
I'll address it a little bit. I think that is where the latter thought really comes in. And if we identify the thought of I'm not good enough, sometimes me saying I'm great or I am good enough doesn't feel true. And our brains are very smart. So if we don't believe the thought, it won't be effective like we want it to be. Maybe we should, she's just popping on. Should we let her finish asking her question?
Hey, Amanda, are you back?
Okay, sorry. Yes, I'm back. What I was going to say is we had a speaker come and talk to the whole school district. So you had all the kids from kindergarten up to seniors, and she asked all the kindergartners if they were great singers. And they said yes, they were great singers. Because she put on a little, musical production and things like that. And then, she skipped a couple of grades and she asked them if they were great singers. And you could almost see the age at to where we stop naturally. I don't know if it's natural, but it is something that was very, like, it impacted me. By the time you were a senior, you really weren't good at singing at all. And so this is why I really, really, but I've yet to see it, in my own life, but I want to so bad. I want to see that it's a real thing, because I saw it with the babies and they were like, yes, we're great singers, kind of thing. And you you just want that kind of positivity in your life, or you want that kind of um ability to talk positive about yourself on what it is that you think is a great thing to do.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful example. And that brought chills to me to see that each time she asked a grade older and older and older, fewer and fewer of them believe in their own ability. Fewer and fewer of them believe good things about their voice. And I can relate to that.
Yeah, Carla, were you gonna finish? Maybe Carla, what were your advice?
Yeah, when Ryan mentioned the latter thought, I think that is such a pivotal piece to having thought work in your favor, is just when you have a thought that you don't believe, that you want to believe, and maybe it's I'm not enough, or maybe it's, I'm not a good singer, but you want to believe that you are a good singer or that you are enough. Finding a thought that your brain actually does believe, because if it's a thought your brain doesn't believe, it will reject it. Like how Ryan couldn't just say, I am beautiful when her brain did not believe it. I mean, we all can see it, but you have to find a thought that your brain actually believes. So maybe it's, I am up for the challenge, like Ryan said, where you shift the thought to something that you actually believe to get you to the place where you actually do believe that you are beautiful. Because we know we're all created in God's image and we are good and we are beautiful. But sometimes our brains have been so wired to think otherwise that we're just not in a place we can believe the good things. So finding a thought that you struggle with, maybe just bumping it up a little bit, like I can sing small, I can sing short songs, or I can sing quietly, I mean, whatever it is for you and your struggle. For me, progress over perfection really helped me stay away from perfection and see the progress and see what I was doing. So just really finding a thought that is believable and repeating that thought and then slowly stepping your way up to the thought that you really want to be able to believe.
Yeah. And I think
Any
Amanda,
other thoughts?
yeah, just like when she said it, it just feels like unreasonable, like we have this image of ourselves. And I'd say, yeah, it should feel unreasonable because you don't have it right now. If you had
Mm.
that design of yourself, you wouldn't be desiring it. And so when you do this with the Lord, it's crazy. It's going to be even more unreasonable. So I remember going to him, and gentle was one of the words he wanted this last semester. And I was like, I laughed out loud. I was like, Lord, I am not gentle. That's just not who I am. And he's like, I know, but we're going to get there. So I like to, with the latter thoughts, I use the word capable a lot. Like I'm capable of becoming gentle or learning. I'm learning how to become gentle. And my brain's like, yeah, we could probably do that. But if I say I am gentle, my brain's like, nope, not going to happen. But yeah, we can learn how to be organized, or I'm learning how to be a morning person. I'm learning how to be a joyful mom. I'm capable of being a great sister or something like that, whatever design you're going after. But wouldn't you say, Reagan, it should be a little bit like out of reach?
Yeah, I think it's just a controversial topic in this field because a lot of people say that I ams are like just a non-negotiable, but I personally believe that I am becoming more like Christ every day. So I really haven't arrived. And so to say like I am perfect, I am like him, like I'm not. I'm trying and I'm wanting to be more like him. And today he's calling me to be more like him in this way. And I'm going to focus on that. But like in 4 months, he might be asking me to change and be more like him in another way. And so I just really relate to that saying like I'm becoming. But again, I know that's really controversial, but I think it's very honest. I'm becoming that type of woman. And my faith is so big that I know that with the faith of a mustard seed, I could move that mountain. So I bet I could become and this thing that God's calling me to be.
Yeah. And I think that like little bit of thought too, like those words becoming capable, learning, they're for more of the written, because when we go to our imagination, I don't really need to imagine what a woman learning to be gentle is like. I just imagine I am gentle. Like I can really picture a gentle woman and then what I would do to be gentle. But it's something about the writing out and the reciting, I think. So it's kind of interesting. Like I think when we have the vision of it, we don't necessarily need like the latter thoughts, but when we're writing it and repeating it to believe it, that's when we need them.
It's true. That's very true. Anybody else have a thought or a question?
I just want to say this is just very helpful to me. It's something I was just reflecting on. Winters for the last, since I was in college, and I'm 55 right now. I have seasonal affective disorder, and God has never relieved me of that burden. We've never been able to move. So, so every winter, I come upon the winter, and every winter is different depending on the weather. But I'm sitting here right now thinking, okay, these things are coming upon me again. I'm getting less productive days in the hours in the day. Motivation is getting low. My energy is getting low. These things that just happen because of the weather and what my body does. But then I was thinking, okay, well, what exactly am I telling myself? I don't think I've ever asked that question at this particular time. What am I telling myself right now about the winter and about how I can handle it and what I can do? So and then what statement that I can believe can I use right now to then make a difference? So this is very applicable to me immediately.
There's so much we could respond to there. That's just so good. I say one thing that I want to talk about, and you guys can share too, is I've had illness, chronic illness, cancer diagnosis. And so it's like, I do want to acknowledge what you're going through and that it's real. And that this isn't positive talk that's going to outthink my way out of cancer, right? Like that's
Right.
crap. I'm not buying
Right.
it.
Yep.
But in that, we have the freedom to respond to circumstances the way we want to respond, and we can respond with the best of what God's given us, or we can respond with the worst and
Mhm.
think of the worst situation. And so that's where we have the power here to think. You guys, what else do you guys are thinking of?
Yeah, like what comes to mind is what narrative are we telling ourselves? And that's why it's really important to get a coach to help you point out, is that narrative true or is it not true? And so like for me, I remember with my last pregnancy, I would always get so sick during pregnancy, you know, and then all the things like I have low energy, I don't
Mhm.
want to do anything, I'm grumpy. That first trimester is awful, 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 awful. That's the word that comes up, right? So then now that I had the mind management, I started saying, instead of like, I'm so sick, I feel so sick, I was like, I'm super pregnant. I'm super pregnant, you know, and like that just helped a little bit because it didn't send me down this path because like sick in my head, then my body was like, yeah, you
Yeah.
do need to not do anything and stay in bed and you have permission to be grumpy. But I didn't want to show up like that. And again, Reagan says the things are true, right? Like I didn't feel well, but I had a choice in how to respond. And it was night and day difference of how I dealt with that pregnancy. Just from that one thought. And yeah, I still had days where I was in bed, you know, but they were far fewer than the previous times.
Mhm. That's helpful.
I wanted to just honor you too, Carissa. Just your openness to growth, I think is so beautiful. Whenever women just really show up ready to learn and grow, I think it's so beautiful. And I think we all have met people that really are not interested in growing or are really resistant to it. And it's just so beautiful when you see someone who is so open to growth and learning. I know that will serve you really well. Um, and I want to speak into Ryan. I realized at baby number 6 that I had been saying every pregnancy, I hate being pregnant. I really don't enjoy it. I'm somewhat sick, but not a lot sicker than most women. But I realized this script is not good to say for 9 months because every child is a gift. And so I started saying, I am a fit mama. I was like, I can get on board with that. And I made such different choices food wise and exercising wise. And it was just a totally different pregnancy, kind of like Ryan had talked about. And I gained much less weight. I felt so much better. It was a much easier delivery. And it is beautiful how our thoughts really do impact our emotions and our actions and our outcomes. So I'm just excited for you to find what thought you're having and make it such a better one because I think it will really impact your life in such a beautiful way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else want to share a thought, inside question?
Yeah, I'll share. I wanted to encourage you, Carissa. I struggle with the seasonal depression too. And this last winter, I've been through the women's school and some of this training twice. And so it definitely is helpful. And one thing that I do, I just realized, I could share when I'm imagining things. Sometimes I will just write it out, like whatever my dream is or imagining. In this case, I think my last one, part of my seasonal depression was eating better and exercising and just feeling good. And I just wrote out like what that would feel like, what that would look like, and imagine it. And over time, it's almost become a form of my like meditation. I'll read it for my morning prayer. I've got a picture of Jesus, and we just go there together. And that's been a way of wiring that new identity, that kind of reciting thing. But it helped me to have that like written word to go back to, especially in the morning when my brain's still trying to wake up.
Thank you for sharing that. That actually, I really like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. I love that. It's almost like you created your own rote prayer, you know, like you could fall back on that Our Father when your brain and your body is like, I don't know what to say. You fall back on that. And I just love that.
I just wanted to hop on and say that yesterday I was just feeling like, now I'm like hit like 29 weeks. I know. I was gonna read a story to you, kiddo. It's almost nap time. I'm like, okay, kiddo. Anyways, I was like, I'm the 29 weeks pregnant, wanting to get things done and organizing my desk, and I'm like, was just kind of ranting to Audie on like the chat. I was like, I want to get this all done. I just want to throw it all off the thing at the desk and just get it all done. And I'm like, okay, let's. And then I was like, laundry to do, and I didn't feel like I had energy to do laundry, so I didn't do laundry. So I organized my desk, actually systematically instead of just throwing it off. So it just was like in talking about like discipline and that kind of thing was like kind of inappropriate. I missed some of the beginning of the podcast, so I'll have to go back and watch. Yeah, that's right. The baby's in there, kiddo. We're not gonna look at it though.
Come on, show us all. Just kidding.
Right. I know. We're gonna leave my shirt down though. I know. Anyway, so yeah, it was yeah, this is what but yeah, so just to think about discipline in different seasons of time and like how to get there. It's like, yeah, I did that work, but it's like it doesn't get anywhere, but I realize it does. It's kind of like, yeah, it doesn't, yeah, what this doesn't get you, it does get you somewhere. I'm like all over trying to do this and then handle this little munchkin who's
Oh, you're good.
kind of a handful.
I really appreciate you being honest about that, Hannah. Just saying, your thought work doesn't get you anywhere. And I mean, yeah, I think that sometimes too. I think a lot of negative thoughts and destructive thoughts and things. Yesterday I did a little thought work by myself. And I realized that I was saying I can't do this, and this. I can't homeschool and work and do this other thing. I can't. And that's what I've been saying. I've kind of been saying it to my husband, like, I can't do that and get this done. You know, I can only do so much. So what does that make me feel? What emotions does that evoke? It's complete hopelessness. It's like I'm a victim of circumstance and I have zero power to change this. And so then what kind of actions was I taking? For me, yeah, overwhelmed. I was about to say that, Ryan. It is overwhelmed. It's I can't. And when I feel overwhelmed, I actually like want to numb out. I want to get on my phone or a TV or something and not look at any of it. And so I noticed that I'd been doing that for like 3 days. I was going into my room and taking like an hour of just junk TV. And I was like, okay, Reagan, what's going on here? And it all stemmed from the one thought, I just can't do this much. And so I was like, you know, again, I don't want to just say I can do this much. I don't want to be like just a fake positive thinker. So I had to do some switching around, like, okay, if I don't want to feel overwhelmed, what do I want to feel? I want to feel capable. I want to feel calm. I want to feel like there's a flow to my day. And so if I kind of step into that, like Hannah, you stepped into the like it's too much. There's just so much. I just want to throw it out to, I could do this one task. And when you step into that and you kind of feel that capable feeling and that I could do one thing, then it actually helps your brain to start thinking more clearly too. Your it almost helps you, you know, you can start from the thoughts to the body, but you can also start from the body to the thoughts. And so you started doing one activity, like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to get up and clean this. Or for me, it was like, I'm just going to go back in there and finish that content piece that I was working on. Just go back in there, spend 10 minutes, Reagan, and just finish it. And what I realized was that it helped me rewrite that thought of I can't to I could if I got up a little earlier. And I'm not getting up super early right now. And so it's not like I'm going from 5 to 4. Like I've been sleeping in lately since Christmas. And I was like, oh yeah, I could. So it switched it from I'm powerless to like I could just get up an hour earlier. And then it's done. it's done. And I don't know. So today, what did I do? I woke up an hour earlier and it's done. And the peace is there, the overwhelm's not there. So I want to applaud you for being honest about the thoughts, the ugly thought, because I have them too.
So good. I love this group. I love the weekly fellowship. It's so fun just to share the things that we know as coaches, and then to hear you guys, because there's so much wisdom in all of you. And so thank you guys for sharing and showing up over the lunch hour. And it's just great.
Yes. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we close out?
Thank you.
I just had one thought to share with you guys while you were talking. Something that's been working for me lately is, does that thought serve me well? And I don't know, it's just been going through my head a lot lately. And just capturing, it's a lot about like capturing those thoughts. And so just yesterday, I had something happen and it was very strong. And I started kind of going down that road again. And it was like, no, I know this, there's nothing good down this road. And so that idea, and it's not even making a judgment when you say, does that thought serve me well? It's not like, oh, it's negative or it's positive. It's just, is it serving me in this moment, at this time, in this space? And it was really interesting because it was very difficult. And yet once I did that, and then the thought came back a couple times, and I just kept doing the same thing. No, this is not serving me today. So we're just going to capture that and move on from it. And I don't know, that's just something that it's almost like, for me, not having to put a judgment on it, even just, does it serve me well? And if in this moment it doesn't serve me well, then I'm not going to go down that path with my thoughts. So I've been sick recently, so some of my goal setting for the the first part of the year has been back a little bit. So this was something a little bit different, but using that has really helped me. Like, it's okay if it's another week past when I wanted to start, or it's, it's just like these thoughts are not, they're just not working at the moment. So just something that maybe would help someone else as well.
Love that.
That's
Thank you
huge.
for that. I really like that too. That's really good.
I think when we practiced this conversation, we're kind of taking some notes. I think we wrote down, does this serve me well? And then it just didn't come out in conversation. So I wish that was on the first 30 minutes recording, because that's just such wisdom. Like, does this serve me well? Instead of being mean to yourself for having a negative thought, right?
I like that a lot.
So good. Thank you for adding that. I'm glad we didn't forget that in this. Thank you for, again, that's a huge part of this is, and I'll give a little spiel for and as we close out here, but a huge part of why the rising tide exists is because I have a good friend and client who was coming to my groups and my master classes, and she said, Reagan, I don't actually come just for you, hun. Like, I love you, but I don't actually come just for you. I really come, one, because I love the community and conversation, but she said also because I have wisdom that I'm not giving to anybody until I come to your groups. Like, I have good stuff and I get to pour it into those women, and it feels awesome. And this is a mom of 6. I'm like, you're pouring out a lot, right? And she's like, I know, but not in this way. Like, I love doing this. And it just really showed me, like, all I need to do is create a space for the wisdom of each woman to come in together, and everybody just bring it, and let's just share it. And that's all we have to do. That's just, so that is the Rising Tide Fellowship. If you haven't joined yet, you can go to risingtidefellowship.com. My awesome coach Audie is probably already putting it in the chat. And this week, let's see. So we've got this event, and then tomorrow we've got our second book club. Ryan, you want to give us a little quick spiel about the book club?
Yeah, we're reading the book What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Perry. And don't let any of that turn you off, the title or the people who wrote it, because it is amazing. And we have only met one time, so you haven't missed anything. The conversation was so good last week, and we just talked about the intro, and the prevailing voice of the group last week was, I can't stop reading it. And so if you want something, it's a simple reading level. It's not real like deep. You don't have to think a lot. It's just like listening, the book to me is like when you go to a coffee shop and you hear really interesting conversation at the table next to you and you kind of want to be a part of it. That is how the book feels. I just kept reading. And it really deals with trauma and just getting to know ourselves and shifting that question on ourselves and on others from what happened to you, or from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. And so even if you haven't experienced trauma in your life, you know someone who has. And so this book will teach you how to be more empathetic, compassionate, and just knowledgeable towards what they've gone through. And then you'll get tidbits too about your own past. I guarantee it. Even if you think you've had no trauma, there's still things in your past that this book kind of brings up. And it's amazing. So chapter 1 is tomorrow, and it's from 1 to 2 p.m. on the Rising Tide.
Yes, 1 p.m. Central Time.
Yep, Central Time. Yep.
And it's the
then,
same
go ahead.
Zoom link? Is it the same Zoom link as this meeting was?
No, it's a different one. If you are in the Rising Tide Fellowship, it is an event in there. Audie, would you mind grabbing that link as well? So once you join the Rising Tide Fellowship, and it's free for 60 days. So if you want to jump in there and just play around, join the book club, see if you like it. That's all free of charge for 60 days. And then after that, it's just $6.99 a month. And if you pay for the year, it's even cheaper. It's like $5 a month. It's literally just to cover the cost of all the tech and the time. It's very affordable. And then the other thing that we have is we have 2 Bible studies on Monday. We have Monday morning and Monday evening. And they're just 30 minutes, and they're really uplifting, and it's reading scripture and then really looking for that nudge of where God's calling you today, and just listening to that inner nudge that he's kind of asking you to do something or say something or be someone. And I always leave it feeling like I just started my week off in the right place with the right director. So that's there too on Monday night. So we've got Bible studies on Monday, and this on Thursday, and then book club on Fridays. And then we send out an email every Tuesday with kind of a blog style email from one of our coaches. And yes, thank you for putting that in the chat, Audie. You guys check the chat out for the links. And I think that's all I have for you guys. Thank y'all for coming. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? Okay, I'll get this
Reagan.
recording. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Reagan.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank
hosting.
you.
It was so
Yes,
fun.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank y'all
all
for
3 of
coming.
you.
Yes, thank you guys. All right, y'all have a great week, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at the Bible study.
Book
I mean,
Bye.
book club. Book club.
We'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Mm.